what I'm going to do here is I want to turn off everyone that is not video, mute everybody as well. Just one second. Hi, everybody. It's Joe Bladek here, and okay, one sec here. Perfect. Okay, hi, everybody. It's Joe Bladek here, and I'm here with Kaleb Streeter. Welcome to our first time sellers webinar. And we're going to be talking for about an hour today. Total, actually, the presentation will be a full hour with about 20 minutes with me and 20 minutes with Kaleb starting off here tonight. And Kaleb is a real estate agent that is located right here in Aurelia, Ontario. He lives in Aurelia. He provides personalized service for anyone that is looking for anything real estate. He can help with selling your home for the first time, as well as helping you buy your second home. So he's been in the industry for 4 years, like I mentioned. He has great service, and I'll actually get him to start off right away. And after, he'll be passing it off to me. I am a mortgage broker, and I'll be talking about the mortgage side of things. And then at the end, we'll have question and answer period, just so we can all answer all your questions live on the air tonight. And look forward to chatting with you. Pass it off to Kaleb. Go ahead, Kaleb.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Joe. Just doing a sound check as always before I start on my rants. Can you hear me okay?
You can hear you great there.
Okay, wonderful. So I'm going to share my screen here so everybody can see. And just kind of a little bit of a preemptive. Just going to go. There we go. So, you know, I love this category, Joe, because everybody always tends to focus on first-time home buyers, and as do we, because it's a category as well that is in need of information. But, you know, we're in the digital age where you can read a lot and for hours upon hours, and not all of the information you're going to have access to is correct. And probably equally, there's a handful of information that is. But in our industry, there's no better way to gain accurate information than from the people that are in the trenches and that do it every single day, like yourself and like myself. And ultimately, at the end of the day, they can't get a mortgage without, you know, going through the protocols that you're familiar with, and they can't buy a home without kind of adhering to the rules and regulations of purchasing a home today. And that same thing goes for selling. But where people often say, oh, you own a home, so you must know everything already. It's frustrating because, well, if you haven't bought or sold in the last 5+ years, the industry has completely changed. The rules and regulations for how you purchase and how you sell, and the speed of the market that which you're in, the conditions are different on a monthly basis. And so you really do need to speak with an agent, and we'll be talking about that in kind of when I get into the presentation here a little bit. It's always funny because there's so much third-party influence in this category. People own a home, you know, whether it's parents or whether it's other family or friends. You want to take their advice because you know them and you trust them. It's hard to meet somebody for the very first time and put 100% of your trust in them. And so, you know, it's understandable why there's some misinformation out there. So the whole purpose of today's webinar is so that we can kind of debunk some myths. We can talk about the process, and you know, if there's a need out there, we'd be happy to pair up with them and help them out as well. So just going to get right into it. So just a quick tip or hits about what I'm going to talk about. I'll give you a little bit of background on myself, and Joe did a wonderful job introducing me, and thank you for that. And then I'm going to get right into what the process today looks like for buying a home. And then we're going to talk about what that looks like on the flip side when you're selling a home. A couple of tips and tricks for first timers. And again, that's the first time on the buying side as well as the selling side. And then what kind of costs are involved? Like, how much does it cost to purchase a home outside of the down payment? How much does it cost to sell a house? What are realtor fees? What are legal fees? Is there HST on these things? We're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about the different options for representation. Of course, we're big proponents of using a realtor, but there are other options and the pros and cons to each option. And then lastly, we'll talk about some common pitfalls, some areas in which you can be steered in the wrong direction, if that's a real word, and things to look out for where the advice you're getting may not be the best advice. So it's always best to cross-reference that. So who am I? Well, my name's Kaleb Streeter, as Joe mentioned. I am a full-time real estate agent in the city of Orillia. My focus is within a 45-minute radius of the city center. So that would be Oro, Ramera, Severn, and Orillia itself. I go up to Gravenhurst, out to Coldwater, Lake Dalrymple, down to Barrie, and that's kind of my niche. It's an area in which I would consider myself an expert. This is my full-time gig. I don't do anything else. I don't have time for anything else. I put 100% of my life, my training and my work, it's my passion into selling real estate, which has its advantages because being in it every day, I'm able to kind of look and take my experiences, find some common areas in which there's pain points and problems, develop a service to solve those, and then bring them to you and answer your questions. And hopefully you find some value in that. At home, I have a wife and 3 boys, so that keeps me busy when I'm not selling real estate. And sales has been my life since I was 19. I started out selling cars, and I slowly transitioned into real estate. So, for the past 14 years, I've been selling. So customer service is number one for me, and it's something that I've been practicing for a long time. A couple accolades. As Joe mentioned, I'm in my 5th year, so 4 full years behind me. Just under 300 homes sold independently. Again, and I was named top 35 agents in the country under 35, top 200 out of all age categories. And with some of that publicity, I was able to get on TV with my 30 Seconds of Fame with Scott McGilvery. So that was kind of cool too. So yes, enough about me. This is about the buying and the selling process, and hopefully some value, some tips and tricks. So let's talk about buying, because you're likely not going to sell to rent. That does happen if somebody moves jobs or whatever the case is. You're moving cities, you may want to rent to test out the waters, learn an area before you buy. But I'm going to talk about buying first, because it's normally the process we focus on, and it's normally the process that's the most different. Selling a house is still traditionally throw a sign in the ground, negotiate an offer. We're going to get into the weeds with that a bit, but buying a house it looks a lot different if you haven't done it for years. So number one, whether you're selling, buying, no matter what you're doing, if you plan on transitioning or you plan on making a move in any capacity, you must be pre-approved. This will hold up the process. It has to be done first. There are conditions to be met for a mortgage commitment, and that is independent of your pre-approval, but that we have time to do. But in order to shop, that license to shop, that golden ticket, is a hard pre-approval. And that's something Joe will take you through in more detail. And having that says, I'm serious, I'm qualified, and I'm prepared to buy. And there's many benefits to getting a pre-approval. And the one that sticks out to me is, as an agent, if you're going to make an offer on a property conditional on financing, the traditional conditional period is 5 business days, which is not really enough to go through the process from start to finish, just to start and figure out if you can or can't afford a certain price range. You need to have that preliminary work done and out of the way so that you can bring strength to your offer, and you can say to the seller, consider me over other offers, especially if you're competing in this market, high likelihood, and you will stick out. You may have such a firm pre-approval that you could go in without a condition of financing. And again, that is up to the advice of your agent, not something I would recommend deciding on your own, because it could depend on the property as well, or if you are CMHC insured, and we'll get into that. The second benefit of a pre-approval is just simply knowing what price range to start your search in. Now you can say, okay, I'm approved up to 500,000. We're going to look at homes up to 500,000. 5 or 510, but I wouldn't go much higher than that in this market, because you're not really likely to negotiate considerably lower than that. And also, it's no fun finding a house you love at 525 and you can't afford it. Auto search. Now you have your pre-approval, and say you're paired up with a realtor. if you want to beat realtor.ca by finding listings and have something a little bit more proactive versus reactive, well, then you can set up an auto search, which is an auto email system that automatically sends you listings that match your criteria. Bedrooms, bathrooms, location, style of home. You can get as detailed as you want, or you can keep it as vague as you want. But this tool, coming from, say, myself as an agent, is going to show you the listing the way I see it. You're going to see the property taxes, the schools, the inclusions, the exclusions, if it's conditionally sold, what the days on market are, the questions you might have for us that aren't on a public version of a listing. You'll have all available photos, multimedia links, you name it. And the benefit is it's instantaneous. The second a listing hits our boards, it's in your email inbox. It won't be on realtor.ca for at least an hour or two. So it's not a huge jump on the market, but if things are moving quickly, which today they are, that could make or break your ability to book a showing before anybody else sees it. And that brings me to the next step in the buying process. You're pre-approved, you've got a search set up, you found inventory, you find something you like, you pounce on it. So we get you in the doors, you determine whether or not you like it. At that point, we make an offer. And again, that's another category in itself. Once the offer is accepted, that's when we start doing our conditions like inspection or financing, so on and so forth. At the point of offer, people often mistake deposit and down payment for the same thing. Your down payment is the required amount of money to appease the mortgage commitment. And it can change, it can vary between 5% and up. And again, Joe, if I'm wrong, correct me, but he'll speak about that. That is your down payment. Your deposit is your financial consideration to show that you are serious about buying this house. Since the sellers have a physical product to offer you, the house, you have nothing but a piece of paper. So that's what a deposit is used for, is to say, I'm serious and I'm putting my money with my offer to show you that I'm serious. And the amounts vary, but the deposit is due upon an accepted offer. It does get cashed. So you do need access to the funds, whether it's 5,000, 10,000, 15,000. And that comes off of what you owe for your down payment on closing. So if you were putting 50,000 as a down payment and you left a $10,000 deposit, you only need to bring the lawyer $40,000. And there are other fees involved, but that's just simple, basic, the concept there. The reason I stress deposit, when you're a first-time home buyer, you don't have a sale. So your down payment is going to be liquid. It's going to be accessible. It could be in the form of an RSP. It could be in the form of cash. It could be coming from a gift from a parent. Either way, you can access that cash much more simply than if you're selling a home, you have nothing in the bank. All your equity is in your house. You can't just grab money from the market inflation from your home. So it's important to have a little bit of accessible cash, line of credit, whatever the case may be. It could affect the approval, but you should have access to a deposit of at least 1% of the purchase price. So if you're buying a $500,000 home, at least have 5,000 accessible for a deposit, appraisal costs, inspection costs, and we'll get into those types of costs. And then once you've appeased your conditions and you've fulfilled them, then the property is what we call firm. And now it's just a waiting game between now and closing. And that's when you can kind of settle things with the bank, and you can get all your ducks in a row and either prep your for sale or sit back and wait for closing. So that brings me into the selling process. I want to extend an invitation here, quick break, to anybody who may find value in this conversation today that we're either going too quickly or you just have a specific question about what I said. I'm happy to answer any questions as we go. Sorry, I lost my screen here, Joe. Can you see it?
I can see it on my end. Yep.
You can. I've lost mine. Sorry, guys. 2 seconds. I'm
Okay.
clicking resume share, but I'm not seeing anything here. 1 second.
Okay. I see the selling process, presentation, marketing, price.
Okay, we're back. It's a great. So anybody that has questions, we're going to have a Q&A at the end of this. But again, if you're feeling like you might forget and you want to pop it in the chat now, that's totally fine. So now we're selling, and this is where it'll be new for you. If you haven't sold before, but you do own a home, the key to selling a house in 2020 is getting as many digital eyes on your listing as possible. The days of newspaper and MLS books are behind us. People still look at newspaper, and I'm not saying it's not effective in any capacity. It's just not the most effective manner to sell your home today. And so it's absolutely crucial that when you speak with a realtor about listing your house, regardless of market conditions, is what is your marketing strategy? What is your game plan? Where do you plan on sending this out to the world to attract buyers? So number one, before you do that, is presentation. So you need to learn or figure out how you're going to present your product, your home, for sale. And in the interview process, when you're sitting down with a realtor, they should know this right off the top of their head. They should have a plan of attack that's proven, tried, and trusted, and gets results every time. So this is kind of a basic plan that I'll explain kind of what my service looks like, to give you an idea of some of the things you should be asking your realtor. But it's going to be different for each market. And let's take Aurelia, for example. Aurelia today, this works. Aurelia in 2021, we might need a different marketing strategy. So this disclaimer, this is for today. This is what's working in today's market. And this is for most residential resale. So if this is a commercial property, it's different. If it's a condo, we have a different marketing plan for that. So we're going to get right into kind of what the plan of attack would be, say, if you hired myself. So number one is we present your property to its maximum potential. We start off with a staging consultation, absolutely free of charge. And we have one of the best stagers in the industry come out to your house for 90 minutes to 2 hours. And they walk around your property with you room by room, leaving you a detailed checklist of what you need to do to best prep that room for photos. So they're not bringing furniture in, they're not removing furniture, but they are giving you advice on what you currently have, on the best way to lay it out so it'll look the best in pictures. A staged home and a lived-in home are two different homes. And so it's not supposed to look like that's how you live. It's supposed to attract people to book a showing. Once your home's staged, you get right to photos. Producing professional imagery is absolutely key. 5 years ago, it was a bonus. Today, everybody does it. It's an absolute necessity. There are no just exteriors. It's not acceptable to take a shot with your iPhone anymore. You need to have great lighting. You need to have edited photos because it's the norm. When somebody's on realtor.ca looking at home after home after home, if yours doesn't at least match the masses or stand out, you will get looked over. And so presenting your home to its fullest not only requires staging the house, it requires good imagery. So making sure that a professional photographer is in that realtor's pocketbook there. No, not pocketbook, in their back pocket. You know what I'm trying to say. Next, it's a nice thing to have a full video of the property, not a 5-6 minute walkthrough because that will bore people to tears, but something that's a quick hit that is going to get them further interested, that's going to pull on their emotions and say, I want to see that house. And so that would maybe be a couple of quick shots of the appliances, a couple of shots of the outside, whatever your top 2, 3, 4 features of your home that you love about it, mention to your realtor so that they can shoot specific video around those features and get people excited about the features that you love. So that's the purpose of that kind of marketing, is to elicit emotion. And instead of just saying, here's a living room, here's a kitchen, here's a staircase. Well, that's not unique, and it's not a cut above. It's not gonna set your home apart from others. So staging, professional photos, professional video. It's a bonus if your realtor has the time to film an intro for it so that other people looking at it will gain an understanding of what kind of agent they're dealing with, because we are the first point of contact. When you hire an agent to list your house, they should be a good talker, a good negotiator. I'm not saying a sleazy salesperson. I just mean articulate so that they can get the features of your home and excitement of your home through to another agent or through to a. Now that you've gained and gathered the images and the videos, you need to send that out to the world and let everybody know you're on the market. So that's where marketing comes into play. And I won't get too detailed here, but marketing's key. This is the only step that really matters. Aside from picking the right price, you need to market it properly. And that may include a social media campaign and boosting the ads and targeting people specifically that are looking in this area by age group or whatever the case is. You need to definitely be on the appropriate boards. Here in Aurelia, we like to try and stay on 3 boards: Aurelia, Barrie, and Toronto. And we grab that Highway 11 and Highway 400 corridor all the way south, where we're finding the most of our buyers are coming from. So we go to them. And then it's important to advertise it twice. Once to the public, speaking their language, once to the agents, speaking their language. The realtor versions of the listings sound and look a little bit different than the public versions. And it's important for the agents to have answers to questions like age of roof and furnace and AC and approximate utilities. If you listed all of that in every listing on realtor.ca, it would be pages and pages of details. And there's a 464 character limitation for the write-up on the public version. So you want to reserve that for the warm and fuzzy feelings about your property, and not so much it costs $80 a month to run for water and sewer. That information is accessible, but it's about where it's appropriate for the listing. Your realtor should know that. Your realtor should also be skilled or hire out in writing good copy for your home. Because if people are looking at the photos, they're likely to read the description. If the description says this bungalow has 3+1 beds and 1.1 baths and is located in the North Ward of Aurelia, book your private showing today, nothing about that wants me to go see that house, because every single house I've seen today has 3+1 beds and 1.1 baths and is located in Aurelia. But if you say it's located next to a brand new park and it's kid friendly and there's kids in the neighborhood, and you show some aerial shots and it's walking distance to the water, and you start talking about what it's like to live there and the lifestyle you could have by having a natural gas hookup for your barbecue in the backyard, or you back onto a trail, or there's privacy fences in place, or whatever the case may be, the pictures will sell the bedrooms and the bathrooms. The write-up is intended to get people thinking and excited. And so you need to differentiate yourself. Everybody's for sale. So if you're going to go for sale, make it different. Lastly, price. This is the third bucket that we focus on when we take on a listing. And this is also the most difficult bucket, because your home to you is the best home on the market. And we know that. I feel the same way about my house. And I'm sure, Joe, your house is $1 million to you. But market value might say something different. And that's where you really need to trust your realtor. When you see homes for sale on realtor.ca, that's not what they sold for. So you really need to see the sold stats to pick the right price. And if you pick the right price, it can be used as a marketing tool just as much as the marketing itself. If your house value is $505, let's say, a $499,900 list price will do you a world of good. And you might end up getting $505. And that's because on realtor.ca, when those buckets go up to certain price points, you're going to be catching all the under 5 buyers. And so, and likely north of 5 will be in that category too. So there is a strategy around price. Price is market value. Pricing strategy is how you intend to get that market value. And it is market dependent. If the market's hot, you can list at market value or below, and you can still achieve market value. If the market's not so hot, you can build in some negotiation room, but you need to understand the market in which you're in instead of just picking a number. The goal is always to sell the house. This is not necessarily what you need out of it, but sometimes you can get both. Once you're on the market, again, this part's fairly simple. You go into offer negotiation after a successful showing, and then you go into the closing process. Happy to chat about that in the Q&A if you're like, well, what does that look like? So moving forward, some tips and tricks. You're going to want to pay your property taxes directly to the city or the township, because it can save you a couple of bucks. It's not massive savings, but it can save you a little bit of money. The Coles notes of this is that if you have your mortgage company withhold funds for you to pay your property taxes with, in order to make sure there's enough money in that reserve account, they're going to hold more than what's required. So you're spending money that you don't need to. And again, it's not massive amounts of money, but it's just nice to know that you don't have money in different accounts that have unaccounted payments for. The reverse is also scary. If not enough money is in the reserve account, the bank will pay your property tax for you, no problem, but they're going to charge you interest on the difference, and until you can repay it. It's just easier to say, no thanks, I'll pay my own taxes, and the township is going to have a automatic withdrawal program. It's just a small tip that I let all my buyers and sellers know that could save you a few bucks. So spend the time to properly prepare your home for the market. The things I just talked about, they are so crucial to happen before you list. Do not rush the market. I know you may think, well, it's the tail end of spring and I'm missing the hot market. Don't worry about that. You will do yourself more harm if you rush to market without properly staging or photographing the home or picking the right price and thinking about things. It's just, we see it all the time with other realtors where they want to get the house on the market so fast because they've purchased firm and they have to sell, that they rush to market. They do a poor job of presenting the home, or they just do an exterior photo. Agents, no problem. But to realtor.ca shoppers, if they see a house with one exterior photo, they think two things. There's something wrong with the inside, or it's tenanted. And it's so bad inside, they didn't even take interior photos. So next, you don't want that. The second problem with it is, if you say in the description, more photos to come, nobody's really going to set a reminder to say, let me check every single day for updated photos. You're going to move on. And so you want that initial market offering to be as good as possible. The old expression, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression, and that is very true for your listing. Do your research before hiring an agent. My recommendation, speak to 2 agents, bare minimum, sometimes 3. Get a couple of different opinions of value for your house and get a couple of different opinions on how they want to market your home, and pick the best realtor for you. We don't win them all. You need to have a good fit, somebody you can talk to, somebody you're confident that can get the job done. There's over 1,500 realtors between Barrie and Aurelia, but there's about 70 to 80 of them that do all of the business. Find one of those 70 to 80 realtors. There's some really good agents to choose from. But really and truly, if you're going to hire an agent, hire properly. Hire properly. Not somebody who says, I'm going to give you a deal, or the family friend that's going to cut their commission. Remember, the less income we are going to get on the tail end of your sale means the less marketing dollars we have to spend for your listing. There's a tried and true way to sell a home, and it's not going the cheap route. If you have a full service agent in mind that's going to cut you some slack here or there, then that's totally fine. But a discount agent might not be your best option unless the market is so hot it doesn't matter. You could just literally put a for sale sign in the ground and it's gone. But again, do your research and get some opinions. That might be my recommendation to land on the right agent. And then using multiple search tools is always a good thing to do. We're humans, and we're only good as good as the tools that we have, which would be the one advantage we have is we can see that proactive inventory. We have other agents in our office with coming soon listings, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't still use Kijiji and Realtor.ca and Facebook Marketplace to see what other homes are coming to market that may not be through the traditional channels of full service real estate. So just if you're upset because you found all the homes, that's normal. It's fine. And if we could change that as realtors, we totally would. But we only have search tools that can search local board listings. So if a Toronto agent were to list a home in Aurelia on the Toronto board, we're not going to see that unless we're on Realtor.ca every day, which we aren't as agents because it doesn't have the information we need. So use multiple search tools, and it's okay to help your realtor out in finding inventory, just doubling up the efforts. What's it cost? Well, the selling side is where the fees are. Purchasing is, aside from your down payment, purchasing is a lot less expensive, but selling, the fees are paid by every seller in every traditional transaction, and the buyer's agents are remunerated through the seller. So on the selling side, you have the three big fees. You have your realtor fees, which are a percentage breakdown between you're going to see 10 as the industry standard, 2.5 to the buyer side, 2.5 to the selling side. And then you have legal fees, again, which have changed drastically. You'll have those on both ends. But if you want to know what average legal fees cost, I actually do have year-to-date averages from the lawyer I use. So I can give you very accurate numbers on what it costs to purchase and what it costs to sell. And then early discharge fee. This is where you're breaking a mortgage. This isn't always applicable, but if you have a penalty, it could be 3 months interest, or it could be considerably higher. Something to consider if you're down to the wire and using the equity from your sale required to make a purchase. So if funds are tight, you really sit down with the mortgage broker, your agent, the lawyer, and really get that net breakdown, including all fees, all HST, everything, so that you know, okay, I have enough money to make this happen. And if you're in a really good spot, you'll have enough money to buy your next house and your sports car by holding back some funds. So you just want to have that. You want to have that. So this is what I do for my clients. Let me see if I have a copy here. I can't see my screen, Joe. Is that in focus there?
It sure is. Yeah, I can see that. It's hard to see because you got your other screen shared, but yeah, I can see that.
Okay. Anyways, this is a one-pager that I've made, and clients love when I do this for them. I call it your home's equity report. And this is basically assuming a sale price and then reversing out your existing mortgage, taking off legal fees and realtor fees and mortgage penalties, and coming out to what exactly you would walk away with if you didn't buy another house. So what will the lawyer cut you a check for if all you were to do is to sell your home? And that number, the mortgage brokers love that number. You just take that home equity report right into them, or you send them a screenshot, because then at that point they're going to know what you're working with. And will you have enough to put, say, 20% down on the next place, and or you might qualify for more of a house too. The buying side, there's no realtor fees to purchase. We're completely free. Never buy a house by yourself because it costs you nothing to use an agent. And if you want to have no legal ramifications, using a realtor is the best way to go about that. I can't guarantee that. Depends on the realtor you choose in your situation, but we also have errors and omissions insurance that we can take a lot of the onus from a transaction off of your plate and put it under ours. You will need to have your down payment saved. And since you're selling, a large portion of this down payment, if not all of it, will likely be from the equity in your home. And that's, again, difference between the market value and your existing mortgage. Less costs. You're going to want to have that deposit, as we talked about, saved up and ready to go. Regardless of the source, you need to be able to cut a check for about 1% or more, 1.5% sometimes, 2% sometimes, of the purchase price of the home. And then a home inspection is about $500 plus HST, sometimes less. So keep that in mind if you do want a home inspection condition. And then sometimes the banks will charge a cost to appraise a home, which is more of a mortgage commitment thing, but that could be an additional cost, and they range a few $100s typically, similar to a home inspection. But again, I don't want to talk too much on that. That's not my world, but it does happen. So just have a couple thousand on the side just for incidentals. And then legal fees. So it is more expensive for legal fees on the purchase end because there's title searching, there's a lot more work involved, there's applying a first charge and mortgage instructions, there's work for the bank to be done. When you're selling, you're discharging a mortgage, there's no land transfer tax, there's no title searching, there's no title insurance. It's just, so it's about $1,000 cheaper to sell a home than it is to purchase. Oh yes, buying, you will have land transfer tax. I can't believe I didn't put that in here. So that's crucial to remember as well. And if you're wondering what does that cost, you could go to Google and Ontario Land Transfer Tax Calculator. If you're buying outside of Toronto, Toronto is the only municipality in Ontario that has double land transfer tax, and everywhere else in Ontario is not. So it's the same wherever you're buying in Ontario, as long as it's not Toronto, you can calculate easily what your land transfer tax will be. It's on a $785,000 purchase, it's going to be $12,155. I only know that because about half an hour ago I just did that. So that gives you an idea. It's expensive. So again, you're going to want to talk to your realtor, talk to your mortgage broker, and talk to your lawyer. Make sure you know where everything is going. All right. When you sell your house, you can choose to do it privately, neighbor to neighbor, You can choose to do it with a fixed fee brokerage like a Purple Bricks, ComFree, and or you can choose to go with a full service agent. So a full service realtor is going to have no problem explaining the options of representation to you because there's confidence in their service. We know that there's a proven method to get the highest amount of money for your house in the quickest amount of time. We're not giving houses away, and faster doesn't always mean that you've left money on the table. In fact, the faster a transaction does happen, the higher probability of a higher price and over asking is there. Inside of 7 days, our statistics on the Aurelia board show that your highest and best offer comes in the first 7 days. 70% of the time, that's the statistic. So obviously you don't want to take this on yourself unless your neighbor walks up to you and says, I will literally buy your house and we can do this lawyer to lawyer. That is possible. You do not need a realtor to sell, but just be very careful and make sure you are engaging lawyers and that you're not doing this on a handshake or writing your offer on a napkin, and always collect a deposit. Even though you know this person, I have seen this go south, unfortunately. Fixed fee brokerage. People say realtors are too much. They make too much money. It's too costly to sell. I'm going to take on, I shouldn't name names. There are fixed fee brokerages out there. I'm going to take on a cheaper route. What you don't realize is you still have to pay the buyer's agent. Almost 100% of buyers have a buyer's agent. It is so close to 100% right now, it's scary. There's very few people walking around, because we're not doing open houses during this whole thing. There's very few people walking around without an agent or unrepresented that are just willing to knock on your door and saying, I saw your listing through a brokerage and I don't have an agent and I'd like to buy this from you and save the fees. So 99.5% of the time, you're going to need to pay the buyer's agent. So half the fee already is still there. So now the savings is only on the listing side. Well, if the fixed fee is 1% or $3,000 or whatever the number, depending on the service you choose and what package you choose, you're really only saving a couple $1,000s. And that's only to say if you're actually saving, because to be honest, 9 times out of 10, we see these brokerages, because there's no local realtors representing them, picking the wrong price. And the houses that do sell quickly are because they're undervalued. And the ones that don't sell end up going with a full service realtor, and you will never regain your investment. If you do hire a brokerage or a private sale type brokerage thing, I'm trying to avoid names here, you will have to pay up front. That's their business model. You pay up front for your photos and all that kind of stuff and that service and offer assist and whatnot. And again, I'm not harping on this. I really am not. I'm saying there's a time and a place for that. But more often than not, if you do have a residential resale, full service is the way to go. We never really see an actual savings. It's just that thought of, well, it's less percentage than an agent, so I'm going to go this route. Showing your own house is so tiresome. It's prepping it and picking your own price. It's just not a good way to go. Whereas a full service realtor, yeah, they're going to charge a little bit more, but they're going to do all of the work on their own dime, confident that your house will sell and they'll get reimbursed, because if it doesn't sell, they don't take a dime from you, or at least they shouldn't. So it's the way to go, because it's a free venture unless your house sells, and you're not going to sell unless you get a price you're happy with. So you are completely in control with a full service agent, and it costs 100% zero unless the house closes. Last but not least, thank you for everybody's time and Joe putting up with my rants and my rambles. But you could tell I'm passionate about this. I really love what I do, but I love more so, showing homes and writing offers. I love being an educator. It's not intended to come across as aggressive or assertive. It's just, I'm passionate about it. And, following the instruction and advice of a trusted agent it's just going to prove to be beneficial for you. So here are some of the areas in which people go wrong, and it's totally normal. Before I was in real estate, I thought very similarly. I'm going to list my house higher to build in some negotiation room. There's some truth to this statement, but there's more fallacy than there is truth. The truth is, if the market conditions state that you can get away with that, then wonderful. If every single buyer on the market is feeling like they're going to come in low to get a deal, moving very quickly. and there's multiple offers. Well, multiple offers don't normally happen unless your house is listed at market value or slightly under, because you haven't attracted enough showings. You haven't said to enough people that there's a deal to be had to generate more than one offer. So listing your house higher than your agent's recommendation doesn't always mean you're going to get it. Doesn't always mean somebody's going to want to negotiate on price. It doesn't mean you're going to land where you want to be. 5K, 10K, small percentage points, you can get away with it. Going much north of 2% off of your market value is just not advisable. If I stay home during showings, I can sell the house to the buyers better. Here's the truth. You're right. Nobody knows more about your house than you. But you need to move, you need to leave for the showings, because the buyers will feel so uncomfortable if you're home. You are going to sell yourself out of a sale. You'll talk yourself out of a sale. There's things that you know about that house that you don't want them to see or know right away up front. You're not hiding or being dishonest, but you might say, oh, and I'm going to fix this, or I'm going to fix that, or when we bought the house, this hasn't ever worked, but I'll make sure it's working before. All of these things are taken away from the emotion and excitement that a buyer's feeling when they're seeing a house, and they get giddy and pumped about it. You don't want to be around. You want their realtor and them to be the only ones in the house so they can talk openly, not feel awkward or not feel nervous about going into your cupboards or pulling open your cutlery drawer or your junk drawer. That happens, but that's part of the process of falling in love with a property. And that's something that you want them to feel the freedom to do. Never, ever, ever stay home. If you have pets, get them out. Some people aren't pet people, and some people are. But if you want to guarantee the perfect showing, you want to have a completely empty home 10 minutes before they arrive, lights on and smelling good. So I know you may think there's some unique qualities to this house, but guess what? There are unique qualities to every house. And every house eventually sells. So if you're priced right and you're marketed properly and the listing has all the pertinent information, you're going to generate enough interest for a phone call. And that's when you can get wordy and you can start talking about the in-depth things. Leave the house. That's the nutshell there. Open houses sell houses. They do not. Here's the truth about open houses. Realtors use them to generate more business. That's what we're taught in this industry. Host an open house, have buyers come through that don't have an agent, have them sign in, and then call them later and solicit their business. So I'm being super transparent with everybody here. That is the purpose and number one motive of an agent hosting an open house. Well, how is that fair that we want to use your house as a tool to generate business? Hey guys, can you go away for an hour and a half to 2 hours and spend money or waste time while I meet people that aren't going to buy your house? You can't qualify anybody walking into an open house. You can't say nobody walking into an open house. They may have just driven by the sign. They don't know what it's listed for. They may not be working with a pre-approval. It's an invitation for nosy neighbors. Whereas with realtor.ca, if a lead comes through that and they say, I'd like to see this house, well, you know that they searched for that area. They searched for that price range. So there's already so many more qualifying factors to somebody coming through an agent or coming to you directly from online. I'm not saying no one's ever sold a house via an open house. I have. It's so rare. I've done over 100 open houses and have only ever sold one house. So it's pretty rare. So don't waste your time. Don't open your house up for nosy neighbors or unqualified buyers. Private showings, agents with buyers only. That's the best way to do it. Now, with COVID, we're not doing open houses anyways, but when things resume to normal, don't think that, oh, my realtor is going to do an open house every single weekend. It's not an advantage. And I just want to be transparent with you guys. It's not a bad thing. And it can help expose it a little bit with signage and things like that. But a serious buyer's online. A serious buyer has an agent who is setting them up on an auto search, and that agent's looking for inventory. They're going to find your house. If they want to buy, they'll find you. Lastly, my parents told me, please cross-reference everything your parents tell you, your friends tell you. They are well-intended, and I get that completely. But it's a daily thing that I hear. My parents said start at this price. My parents said when they bought, they were able to get it for X. And they negotiated with the seller, or they let me move my stuff into the garage before closing. If what your parents tell you matches up with what your realtor's telling you, wonderful. It's sound advice. If it doesn't, I would put your trust in your agent. If you don't trust your agent that much, you need to interview more agents. So I'm going to end it there. Here's my information, my cell phone, my email, and my website. Everything is just Kaleb Streeter. You can find me everywhere. I would love to pair up with you guys and answer your questions more in depth, but I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found some value in that. Now I'm going to pass it over to one of Ontario's leading mortgage experts, Joe Bladek.
Thanks very much, Kaleb. And I really appreciate you taking the time there to talk about all those wonderful points there. I love your passion, and I love how well you've communicated all these ideas. Because, you know, I was a first-time home seller once. I didn't know what I was doing. And there's a lot of fallacies that you speak of that I probably did and probably shouldn't have done to just set myself up better. So just thank you for providing all that information. So
You're very welcome.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So let's pop into here. I'm a mortgage broker. As Kaleb mentioned, I'm right here in Orillia, right here in Simcoe County. I live in Orillia. And I have the privilege today to speak to all of you. Regarding time, we're going to be probably another 20 minutes before questions. And just to give you an idea of what timing is looking like, and then we can go on to your questions, and feel free to leave your questions in the chat box below, and we can get to them at the end. So let's see here. I'm just going to go to my presentation. Where's my slideshow? There it is. All right, so a little bit about the agenda that I'm going to be talking about, a little bit about me, and a lot of the same points actually that Kaleb has covered, but more from the mortgage side of things. Like what happens to your mortgage? What kind of mortgage products are available now that you're selling your first home and buying your next home? What is a bridge mortgage, and do you need one? I'll cover the costs involved as well. I know Kaleb covered that as well, and very much in a lot of detail. There's also some rebates and offers available for first-time home sellers. And what happens if you can't sell your home or you choose not to, and how using a team can help you with your whole selling process. So just moving on, a little bit about me. I am a mortgage broker. This is my family here, my wife, Melissa, my 2 kids. My son now is 7, my daughter is 5, and that's my life right there. That's our little family photo. A little bit about my professional career. I've been licensed as a mortgage broker now for, it'll be 10 years this August, and I've been in the financial industry for 12 years total. Became a accredited mortgage professional in 2013, mortgage broker in 2014, and top 10% of brokers since 2015. So pretty proud about that. And a little bit about why I became a mortgage broker instead of, say, working for a bank directly. And that's simply because I love getting a good deal for myself, whatever that is. And I love being able to help my clients find a good deal. So whether that is on their first home or on their second home or third home, just a good deal on their financing, and just making sure that they walk away feeling that they had a great experience and got at the least cost. So when they're telling their friends and family about it, that they're going to have the lowest rate compared to everybody. So you know, I can get some referrals out of that too, right? That's the whole plan. And then planning. I love being able to help my clients just plan out their home buying strategies. Like, what is it that you want out of your mortgage? What is it that you want out of your home ownership? And how can we roll that into a personal finance plan for your mortgage? And also choice. Just being able to talk to a mortgage broker, you're able to have access to not only one bank's products, but we can compare, say, TD Bank's mortgages with Scotiabank's mortgages, with First National's mortgages, and just take a look at all those and see which one is going to benefit you the most. A little bit about what I like to do for fun. I love to play music. play the drums a lot. And back before I had 2 children, I did a lot of fundraising concerts there with a band I was in, and it was just great. We did a lot of shows, but since then it's been family all the way. Anyway, moving on. So you're buying your next home, you're selling your first home. What is this like? Well, it's a lot like buying your first home. You still need to get pre-approved. And your real estate agent in this case will not only help you with buying your first home or your second home, but also selling your first home. And this is really important because your real estate agent, highly recommend Kaleb here, will help you not only coordinate the sale of your first home, but the purchase of your second home. And Kaleb mentioned he has that great worksheet. He can give you an equity snapshot, and that will be fantastic just to have that in the back of your mind when you're looking at what you have available to your next home. Closing costs also, they're usually handled from the sale proceeds, so you never really have to come up with that up front, other than your deposit and things like that. And we'll cover that later on in the presentation here, but it's a lot like buying your first home. There is something that you should note, and that is the land transfer tax. When you're buying your first home, there's a land transfer tax rebate in Canada or in Ontario, and that's $4,000. So you don't really notice land transfer tax when you're buying your first home, but when you're buying your second home, a lot of times people forget about this, and all of a sudden you have another closing cost. The good thing is that it's usually worked into your sale price, so it comes out of the sale proceeds from your home that you're selling and goes into the home that you're buying. There's also a couple rebates and offers available to first-time home sellers as well that I'll cover off as well later on in the presentation. And if you're looking to sell your home and buy a new home, but the new home needs some improvements, these improvements can actually be added to your mortgage. So you have some extra money available to, say, renovate that kitchen or renovate that bathroom to your liking to make sure that it fits with what you're looking for. And does selling fit with your financial plan? You know, do you prefer, do you want to rent out your existing home and then leverage your equity to buy your next home? That is an option too, and I'll cover that later in this presentation. So what happens to your mortgage? What happens to my mortgage? A lot of you may be asking that question, and there's a few different options you can take. One is you actually move with your mortgage, and that's called porting your mortgage. You take your existing mortgage balance, whether it is $300,000 or $350,000, and you just simply move that to your new home. The benefit of this is there's no penalty to do that, and you're able to keep your interest rate. And this is really key if interest rates have gone up and you hold a really nice interest rate. There's another option, and that's to simply get a whole new mortgage. And in this case, you'd be paying off your existing mortgage with your sale and then setting up a whole new mortgage on the other end, same as you did when you first bought your first home. And the third option would be blend and extend. And this is a common term used, and that's moving with your existing mortgage, moving the existing rate. And if you need more money to put on your mortgage on your next home, we increase the mortgage based on the new rates. So we take an average of the new interest rates that are at the current time when you're buying your home and average it with your existing mortgage rate, and that essentially blends the two mortgage rates, and also we extend the term at that point too. So say if you're currently at 20 years remaining on your mortgage, you can actually extend that up to 25, and that's called blend and extend. You're blending the mortgage rates and you're extending the term. So do I need to get pre-approved? And yes, you do need to get pre-approved, even if you currently have a mortgage. There's a lot of things that may have changed. And before you actually put the for sale sign in your lawn and get Kaleb showing you new houses, it's important to make sure that you are pre-approved and that we know exactly what you can afford. Because as Kaleb mentioned, if you have a solid pre-approval, you can actually go into that purchase without a financing condition, feeling confident that you have the financial backing behind you. It's really important. And the reason is maybe your credit has changed since you first bought your home. Maybe your income has changed. Maybe you've become self-employed since you bought your first home. And if you've been only self-employed for 6 months to a year, this may disqualify you for that home you want. And maybe we should plan maybe that you're buying your next home another year from now because you're self-employed. You also want to make sure that when you're shopping around that you have that pre-approval so that when you're going into that offer, as Kaleb mentioned, the sellers of the home you're buying feel more confident with your offer. And a lot of the times they'll take your offer that is already pre-approved over another offer that is not pre-approved. And similar to what Kaleb does with his equity snapshot worksheet, I do a closing cost worksheet. I'll talk a little bit about the closing costs later, but essentially I go through all the different closing costs in the same way, find out what you will have left over after you sell your home and you purchase your next home. And the reason I do that is because you might want to pay off some debts. You might want to pay off some credit cards or lines of credit or car loans in the process of selling your home and buying your next home. There's a lot of people, and what they do is when they sell their home is they take the money from the sale, they pay off their credit cards, they pay off a car loan, they pay off some debts, and then they take the remaining amount and put it in as a down payment for their new home. So they can accomplish two things at the same time, make themselves more financially stable and have a new home at the same time. So we can figure all that out during your pre-approval. So what products are available? Well, there's a lot of different products. As I mentioned, I'm a mortgage broker. I have access to all the different lenders in Canada, big banks and non-bank lenders. But you can actually pick any one of these things. You can actually stay with your current mortgage company, whatever your mortgage company is with, and I can work with your existing lender to transfer that mortgage over to your new home. Or we can look at other lender offers. Perhaps you're open to seeing what we can get you right now. If you set up your mortgage 2 years ago or even a year ago, your interest rate might be around 3 to 3.5%. You might be looking at saving some money if you actually break your current mortgage and look at setting up a new mortgage at a lower rate at today's rates. Also, if you do that, there's some lenders that offer cashback incentives that can help you with closing costs when you get your new mortgage set up when you're buying your new home. Also, at the same time as you're selling and buying, you might have a lot of equity in that new home that you're buying. So you have the option to set up a line of credit at this time. And this might be useful down the road, say if you lose your job or want to become self-employed and invest in a business or something like that. Just having that line of credit set up initially at the same time when you're paying for the legal fees to do all the sale and the buy, so it doesn't really cost you anything extra, will be beneficial for those emergency case situations down the road. Also, when you're selling and buying, you have the opportunity to change up the type of mortgage, and I can help you with that. Either changing from a fixed to a variable rate or the other way around. You can also change your amortization. Say you're at 20 years, you can increase it back to 25 or go up to 30 or maximum 35-year amortization with some few lenders. And at this time, you're also able to change your payment frequency. Maybe you've been paying your mortgage on a bi-weekly or monthly basis, and you want to change it up and maybe start paying your mortgage weekly or semi-monthly on the 1st and the 15th. There's all these different options available, and we can handle all of these at the same time as you're selling and buying a new home to get you set up going forward. So what is a bridge mortgage? You may have heard this before, and a bridge mortgage is a very temporary mortgage. It usually lasts for about 1 to 2 months and allows you to hold two homes simultaneously. You might want to move in early and close on your sale late. So let me give you an example. Here, Roger and Susan have bought a new home. They are moving in on July the 10th, 2020. So that actually happened a couple weeks ago. Then they're selling their home on August the 1st. So they're not actually going to have the money from their home until August the 1st, but they want to get in early, maybe paint their home a bit, maybe do a bathroom update. So they'll need a bridge mortgage from July 10th to August 1st. And this bridge mortgage will allow them to hold both properties simultaneously. The drawback is you'll have two mortgage payments during this time, possibly 1 or 2 bi-weekly payments. But the good thing is it allows for a buffer, whether it is to move your belongings from one home to another, paint that home or get it ready or whatever you need to do. Bridge mortgages are available and they typically last up to a maximum of 60 days. We can get them longer, but it's all in a case-by-case scenario. All right. So how does the process work? Kaleb really covered this in detail, so I'll just skim over this so we can save a little bit of time. Number one, I would say, is to meet with the mortgage broker to make sure you know that you can get pre-approved and that you will have no problem selling and buying your home that you're planning on. We get you a price range set up and you get to know confidently how much you can borrow and how much it's going to cost. And we can pre-approve you so we can lock in an interest rate for up to 4 months. So if rates go up, you're protected. And if rates go down, we can just automatically adjust at the lower rate as we go. Then you meet with Kaleb to discuss selling your first home and how that's going to be set up. He can help you walk through that in detail. You'll need to sign some documents with your real estate agent, just identifying your commitment to them and their commitment to you. And then when we get your approval for your new home, you'll need to sign some paperwork with the mortgage broker, just confirming your mortgage approval. Then once that's all done, we sign some documents with a lawyer, and the lawyer pulls it all together, and they actually receive the money from the purchasers of your home that you're selling, and they give the money to the buyer, the home that you're buying, the sellers from the home that you're buying. Sorry, it just took a minute to figure that out there. And they handle all that nitty-gritty stuff. They handle paying off your old mortgage or transferring your current mortgage. So you don't have to worry about that. A lot of my clients, when they're selling their home for the first time, they tell me, Joe, do I need to call my mortgage company to let them know that I'm moving? And I'm like, and I tell them, you don't have to worry about that. Is what you're paying a lawyer to do. And that's what they specialize in day in and day out. And they have special special terms that they use. They discharge a mortgage and they register a new mortgage, and they do this stuff every day. So they will give you, at the end of the day, when you're signing with them, a statement of adjustments, and that's exactly where the money goes and who gets the money. And then you can see exactly where it goes. And speaking about money, let's talk about the costs involved. Again, Kaleb covered this in much detail, but essentially, let me go through this here. You may not know, but it doesn't cost anything to use a mortgage broker. I actually get paid directly through the lender that you choose to work with. So say if I set you up with a fantastic interest rate and cashback offer through TD Canada Trust, then you don't have to pay for that, and there's no extra fees added to your mortgage. But the things that do cost you money are your deposit. The good thing is, though, when Kaleb writes you an offer and you get an offer accepted on your dream home and you have to put a deposit down, say if it's $5,000, that $5,000 actually counts towards your down payment. So now your down payment will be $5,000 less because you've already put down part of your deposit. There's a property tax holdback, and that's a maybe. As Kaleb mentioned, it's better to pay your property taxes directly to the city, and this can be done monthly or quarterly. And this will remove any property tax holdback. And the holdback is essentially so the bank has enough money to pay the next tax payment. They always collect more than they need. And as Kaleb mentioned, if they don't have enough, they'll charge interest on that. Then there's an interest adjustment amount. And an interest adjustment amount is a portion, say if you are paying your mortgage bi-weekly, and it's not actually going to start payments until the third week after closing, then if you have your first payment 3 weeks after closing, you'll have an interest adjustment payment due at closing for the first week of holding that mortgage. And that's the interest for the first week. So we can make sure that when we are doing your mortgage, we can try to eliminate any interest adjustment payments by coordinating your payments accordingly. Also, mortgage penalties, that's also a maybe. We can look at all the different options, and sometimes we have a lender that can provide cash back to cover off some of that mortgage penalty. A lot of the times we can get you a better interest rate that makes the penalty worthwhile. For example, if you're paying a penalty of, say, 3 months interest, say it's $2,000, $2,500, but you have a mortgage rate right now at 3.1%, you'd be way further off paying off that mortgage now and setting up a new mortgage at 2.04%. You'd be way better off in the long run, and the payback period will be within the first year. There's also legal fees that comes out of your sale. There's land transfer tax. Kaleb gave a good resource, Ontario land transfer tax calculator, if you Google that. Real estate fees, home inspection, that is optional. Home inspection is something that you don't have to take, but Kaleb probably will recommend it, and I definitely recommend it as well. Appraisal, that is a maybe. Maybe is, I say that because sometimes the banks can do a soft appraisal or a drive-by appraisal, and that doesn't actually cost you anything. And sometimes the banks will actually rebate you the appraisal fee after closing. And I make sure that we try to get one of those options for you. So that's why I put it down as a maybe. CMHC is a maybe. You may be going into your second home with, say, 10% down or 15% down or even 5% down. Some people pay off all their debts and go back in with 5% down on the second home, and that is okay. So in this case, you might have CMHC and title insurance. So those are probably all the closing costs and costs involved. But the good thing is that most of these do come out of your sale. The ones that don't come out of your sale are things like a deposit and home inspection and appraisal. Moving on. So if you can't sell your home, perhaps for whatever reason, you thought you've changed your mind, you love your house so much, you want to keep it, maybe give it to your children. Well, there's a couple different options. You can keep your current home and build equity on 2 homes at the same time. And in that way, you can hold that second home and get Kaleb to sell it for you maybe a year later, 2 years later, or maybe you'll end up keeping both homes long term. But here's an example. Your first home is on the left there, home number 1, and your new home, your upgraded home, is home number 2. Say if you sold your home number 1, for $350,000, and then your mortgage left on this home would be $226,000. You would currently have an equity position of $124,000. On home number 2, the purchase price is $550,000, and the mortgage on this home you're looking to set up would be for $495,000. If you did if you hold on to the home for 5 years, and say if you hold both homes for 5 years, you can actually have both homes working and increasing the equity for you. In 5 years, home number 1 would be worth $400,000. Your mortgage then would be paid down to $218,533, and then you'd have a higher equity position of $181,467. And then on home number 2, you would have additional equity after your market value and mortgage is taken into account of $258,739. So this gives you an idea of what you could have if you kept both homes and leveraged the equity in home number 1 to purchase home number 2. Okay, there's the equity in keeping both properties. And the way people accomplish this is simply by renting out home number 1 and using the rent to cover off the property taxes and the mortgage, so they keep that property going, and perhaps you'll even have a cash flow, but you're essentially making money 3 different ways. You're having your tenant pay down your mortgage, so you're building equity. Your property is also appreciating, so you're building equity that way. And you have possible cash flow every month. So every month you have additional money coming in, whether that's Costco money or money that you want to put into your own home, something that you want there to help you with that. All right. So moving on to the next part, because that might not be for you. You might not want to become a landlord, and that's totally fine. But that just gives you some food for thought. So what rebates and credits are out there? Well, there's a lot of rebates and credits available for first-time buyers specifically, but after a few years, I found that there are some rebates and credits available to first-time sellers. Lenders actually offer cashback for first-time sellers. And this is cashback offers of up to $2,000. And this is a cashback offer that is not added to the cost of your mortgage. It doesn't change your interest rate at all. It's simply available to first-time sellers. There's also some home warranty programs available to first-time home sellers, where if you're buying your second home, they'll actually cover off things. If your furnace breaks or if your air conditioning breaks, they'll cover off that for you. And there's also what's called a first-time home seller's rebate. And a first-time home seller's rebate is available to anyone who hasn't owned a home never sold a home in the last 4 years. So you can actually be considered a first-time home seller after 4 years. And if you're interested in any of these, please contact me or Caleb after the seminar, and we can be happy to look into those for you. Okay, so it's really easy actually to get started with getting pre-approved. I'm right here in Aurelia, and we can meet over Zoom or phone call or even text. Most people, how they start things off is they'll say, hey, it's Joe, and I'm looking to get pre-approved. And you can text me at my cell phone number there or call me anytime as well. And a lot of documents can now actually be accepted via a picture from a phone. It's pretty amazing what the banks are now working with. We can send scans from a phone. There's apps you can get that way. So you never actually have to walk into a bank and deliver a stack of documents. So that concludes my presentation. I'd like to thank you for listening to me as well today. I appreciate all of you coming out to this presentation. Don't forget to like my Facebook page at facebook.com/bemortgagefree, and feel free to tell us about your experience. And at this point, we'd like to open up the floor for questions. And what I'll do is I'll actually put in the chat box also a form that all of you can fill out. And Caleb has an offer for all of you guys. It's why don't you tell us a little bit about it? It's your Operation Upsize manual, right?
Yeah, I have a guide that it's a little more polished, and it kind of gets everything I'm trying to say into one document. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes to read through, and it explains in 4 easy steps, stress-free, pain-free, how to sell and buy. It is specifically for people transitioning out of a home into another one. I call it Operation Upsize because most often people are selling to go bigger. They're upsizing, whether they're adding kids to the mix and they need more bedrooms, or they want more living space, or they're taking their parents on. It doesn't necessarily mean you're upsizing. It could be a lateral move. It could be downsizing as well. But if you're selling and buying specifically, this guide's for you, and it talks about exactly how to do that without the pain, without the stress.
Awesome. So does anyone have any questions? Feel free to type any question here. There's no stupid questions. I remember I was a first-time home seller once, and I didn't really know what I was doing and didn't know who to call, didn't know how the process worked. Okay, while we wait for questions, Caleb, maybe we can answer a couple of frequently asked questions we get.
Sure.
Maybe cover off, maybe spark some ideas.
Yes, absolutely. Do you have any on the top of your head?
Well, a lot of the times people ask me what happens with my mortgage, right? And I try to cover that off in my presentation, but there's always more questions on top of that. Like a lot of people, they want to know exactly how does it work that I pay a penalty, but I end up ahead with a new mortgage rate. And
right.
And what I wanted to say there is that if you are in that situation and you're looking at getting the current mortgage rates because you are at a little bit of a higher rate right now, I have a calculator that I've put together in Excel, and I can send you a copy of that where you put in your existing mortgage rate, and we put in all your details, and we put in the current mortgage rate, and we look at what your savings will be in interest paid for the remainder of the term. We'll look at how much more principal you will pay until the remainder of the term, and we'll look at the monthly difference as well until the remainder of the term. And then we look at how that adds up, and we compare that with your penalty. And usually if you're at over 3% right now, and you can get low twos right now, you're going to be about $8,000 to $10,000 ahead over the 3 to 5 years, depending on what your penalty is. So that's that's a frequently asked question I get.
Yeah, and I think we covered a lot of the. There was a bit of material on both of us on kind of costs and things like that. I know, like as an agent, people want to know what's your fee. I'm a realtor in Barrie. I enjoyed your presentation. I follow the same model. Appreciate your transparency. Great info. Hope to get a chance to work with you in the future. Tracy Love. Thanks, Tracy. Appreciate that. That's encouraging to hear, and that's good. Yeah. So I hope I didn't hurt you by saying what I said about open houses, but I know that you'll probably agree with me. So if you're open with your clients, that's good to hear. Yeah, if you're open with your clients and you know them well enough and they're okay with you hosting an open house at their property for that purpose, then there's nothing wrong with it. But it's just not likely to sell their house.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, cool. Open houses have been one of those things where I if I see an open house, then I don't mind being a nosy neighbor, but I'm not really interested in buying that house. So I can see why they can be a waste of time.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, we have someone else here. Okay. We'll have to find out more about the first-time seller incentives. Yep. Feel free to connect with us after the presentation, and we'll be happy to send those out. So yeah, there's some first-time home seller incentives, so we can make sure that we connect you with those. Okay, well, maybe if anyone has any questions, Kaleb, we can we can let them come to us after, and also we'll be sending everyone will get an email from me after this just to follow up. And if you want to get started with the pre-approval process, Kaleb, maybe you can also connect with everyone after as well, just to introduce yourself. And if anyone has any questions, they can get back to us that way as well.
Oh, that sounds great. Okay. No, it's a great time. Great way to wrap it up. Thank you for your time, and thank you for everybody that attended. And of course, we're accessible after this as well. Happy to work with you.
Okay. Great. Well, thanks, Kaleb. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming out.
Have a good night.
Okay.